Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala syarifil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can continue our video on free life coach training program by our Khalifa Education Foundation and Islamic Psychology Center to the world. We are doing all these videos inshallah as our means of reaching out to do da'wah and to transform the ummah as we face the various challenges of the 21st century civilization. Alright, we have given you our flow in terms of certification, and you can pick many areas of psychology as well as life coach. That is the motivational aspect, module 1, coaching aspect, mentoring aspect, and counseling aspect. Now we're talking about counseling and how we can develop the Islamic psychology counseling format or model that we call it PI-CBT. It is an offshoot of the basic psychological tool of cognitive behavior therapy. Ours is positive Islamic cognitive behavior therapy, and how it is linked to our four realms of existence of our nafs, and how we exist in this world, the nature of existence in this world. And this is our model in our book, Positive Islamic Psychology. This is on the front page. It gives you the whole detail of how you can use this as a basis of developing a model for Islamic psychology for the world, inshallah. And I've given you the internal and external sources of behavior which affects us, and how the realm of the qalb, the ruh and akal, the intuitive heart and feelings, affects our totality of our existence on this earth vis-a-vis the physical world in terms of the cognitive thoughts of the CBT model and the PI-CBT model. I'm going to give you more detail in terms of the metaphysics of existence, because if we are going to understand the whole idea of positive Islamic cognitive behavior therapy and the whole idea of counseling, we are going to counsel somebody with what? We're going to counsel them because they have stress, they have psychological challenges, they have anxiety, they have depression, they have all the problems of this world. These problems are basically an epidemic in terms of the modern world. Addiction, for example, it is a very modern addiction problem of the modern world, of displacement of people who are removed from the traditional lifestyle to a modern lifestyle, which, for example, exposure to alcohol. So all indigenous society, for example, whether it's in Australia, whether it's in Latin America, whether it's in Papua New Guinea, they are destroyed by alcoholism, and they're now drug addiction and so on, because the traditional lifestyle, they are not displaced in terms of their understanding of the nature of the worldview of their existence. So we have this whole epidemic of anxiety and depression in the developed world. That means people who are living with the highest standard of living, all right, in Sweden, in America, in Europe, and so on, they are having a lot of problems. And the highest suicide rate in the world is not in the poor third world countries, but it is in Scandinavian countries. So it is quite a what do you call it, dichotomy. The more advanced we are, the more we are lost in terms of our purpose and meaning in life, because of the displacement of the understanding of the nature of our existence. We are not just a material being, but we have the four rules I explained to you. So today I'm going to give you an understanding how we are going to see and understand the metaphysics. That means from matter to mind to intuitive heart. If we look at the nature of existence now, with the understanding of quantum physics and quantum mechanics, we can now have a better understanding of the nature of even our personal self, human self. And with the understanding of Islamic metaphysics, we can then understand within the tenets of Islam, within the tenets of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the understanding of who we are and why we are on this earth. So the best reference for this, as I've mentioned to you, you go to Zaytuna College, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf Henson, or you go to Cambridge Muslim College, Abdul Hakam Murad Winters. Both are very high level alim and ulama and scholars who can understand both the modern world and the traditional Islamic tenets of Islam within the framework of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and they can give you a very great detail. I'm just giving you an overview for us to just reflect and think. This will not be the final thing. For example, if we talk about, say, cognitive behavior therapy, cognition, emotion and behavior, Alright, CBT says, okay, this is driven by our neuronal circuit. So we have our brain and neural circuits, whether it's the frontal cortex or whether it is the amygdala or whether it is the other parts of your brain. Then it from the neuron. So it comes from the, if we talk about the physical existence, we talk about we have in ourselves atoms. We are created by, Allah has created us with atoms. What is atoms? We have electron and proton, okay, proton, positive and negative charge. So this charge then becomes what we know as hydrogen atom or oxygen atom or calcium atoms and so on. So they are different atomic structure based on the periodic table. So this atom is then fused together to become, say, bacteria, which have the genetic makeup. All right, they have the RNA, which can become, say, amoeba or virus and so on. So then they have genes. So from atom to genes, from genes to molecules and organs, organs to our brain. All right, so we have our organs in terms of our existence on this earth. We have our heart, we have our stomach, we have our lungs, and so we have our brain. And then we have the neural circuit within the brain, more than 100 billion neurons connected to all the various circuits through the dendrites, and then from there we get cognition, emotion and behavior. This is the de facto idea of secular model of life. That means they stop here, they go upward and they say, okay, we are all these things. All right, so they are only taking one aspect of ourselves. That's why now in terms of, say, secular psychological therapy, they are ineffective. Effective to a certain extent, they can help you out to modulate to a certain extent, but only within the framework of our physical existence. But what is beyond that? This is where the important, for example, if we talk of the problems of addiction, it is beyond the physical. We talk about the idea of suicidal tendencies, it is beyond the physical. So this is where they cannot resolve the problem, because the problems reside in a far deeper level of human psyche. And when we talk about human psyche, then we have to go downward. All right, so if we talk about atoms, subatomic particles. All right, what are atoms made? Okay, they say, okay, now you know in physics we say, okay, atoms, we have the subatomic particle, you have the various subatomic particles, even the Higgs boson and all the various other particles that they can discover. They call it the God particle, whatever they want to know it, but these particles, all right? Then as you go further down, they say, okay, these atoms are actually not billiard balls. They are not like balls revolving around the electron revolving along the proton. No, they are just waves with possibilities. So they say Planck waves. All right. So from here you can see that as we go further in this direction, a physical body like ourselves is not actually physical. It's just waves. Waves of what? Waves of energy. All right. So we are actually vibrating waves of energy. If we vibrate this way, we become an hydrogen atom. If we vibrate this way, we become a calcium atom. We combine together, we get the genetic pool. How they vibrate and so on is still a mystery, because science could not resolve 95% of the nature of existence, because 90% whatever exists on this earth is dark energy and dark matter, and God knows how. They also say, okay, it's just dark energy, dark matter, we don't know what. We only know about 4% or 5% of the nature of our existence in terms of the physical realm. So they know that we are moving to this direction, but as we go further up, we must know that all these things will then go to the realm of consciousness. The nature of we being aware of existence, the nature of we having a purpose and meaning in life. Because if you ask a dog, what is your purpose and meaning in life? The dog will bark, ha ha ha. Alright, I'm a dog. Nothing beyond that. But the dog would not have the self-reflective capacity to see beyond them. Why did God, from the Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with a self-reflective capacity? Beyond us, there's no purpose in terms of evolution for us to have this consciousness, the self-reflective capacity, the ability to modulate the world. We can shape the world, and we are shaping the world disastrously. We are destroying this earth that maybe in 50 years' time we will destroy ourselves because of climate change, temperature rise, sea rise, mass extinction of species and everything. We will die if we do not correct ourselves, because of we deny the realm of consciousness. But the realm of consciousness is not that one level alone. So for example, now they talk about mindfulness. Yes, they are going to the realm of consciousness and mind. Alright, so this is the next level I explained to you, like DBT and so on. But what is the Islamic perspective? The Islamic perspective, if we go down, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in the realm of the absolute. That means He is His Zat. We cannot understand or we cannot try to probe into His Zat, but He gave us the understanding of nature of His attributes. His attributes of love, for example. This whole universe is created out of love, of His compassion, of His mercy, and how we are going to lead our life in terms of our gratitude, our servitude, and our submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we look about that, then we have Allah manifested the realm of the spiritual world. So in Islam, within the Islamic tenets of Islam, we have the spiritual world, we have the angelic realm, we have the satanic realm, we have other realms that we cannot understand. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam go through the Mi'raj, alright, he saw these many realms of existence. Alright, so it's possible for human being to actually understand this realm by opening our intuitive heart. This is where our Prophet Muhammad SAW says, when he came back from Mi'raj, some of the Sahaba says, yeah, you are a prophet, you can go and do this Mi'raj. What about us? Then the Prophet says, when you go into your salah with full concentration and full submission to Allah, you are doing your Mi'raj. So we have this intuitive heart that can understand the realm of the spiritual and understand the universal consciousness. So from this understanding of the intuitive heart and universal consciousness, we have the realm of consciousness that is linked to the Planck wave, subatomic particles, atoms, that is linked to the gene, that links to the molecule, neurons, neural circuit, cognition, emotion, behavior. So this is where the whole framework of positive Islamic psychology and Thai CBT. So we are talking about the four realms that I have explained to you in great detail. So when we counsel, we are just not counseling people at this level only. We are counseling them about the understanding of the purpose and meaning in life, the nature of their existence. Then you can overcome. If they are addicted to alcohol, or they are addicted to sex or video games, or they are wanting to kill themselves because they see no purpose and meaning, then you have to work on the intuitive heart level. Alright? Naturally, we are going to go back on our reliance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So all this is explained very succinctly and beautifully within the realm of the tenets of Islam. Remember, if you go back to the tenets of Islam, this is explained in very great depth and detail in the Al-Quranul Karim and in the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As I say, I'm not competent in understanding all this area. You go to Sheikh Hamzah Yusuf Hansen, alright, Zaituna College, there are many materials there, and you go to Sheikh Abdul Hakam Murad, Winchester. Both are the converts, but both of them are having a high level of the understanding of the metaphysics and the tenets of Islam within the framework of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. You can then understand how our model is not our model is very, very in line with the nature of Islamic theology. So if that is in line, that means you have a good model of existence. So even if Muslims are having a lot of problems, we know that we can go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because we have a loci. And as He created us, He gave us the heart. The loci of control is our heart. Intuitive heart, feelings and emotion at the level of the roh, qalb and akal. So if we can harness this energy, this capacity, the barakah that is given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we can then have a higher level of efficacy in terms of positive Islamic cognitive behavior therapy. So this is the fundamental idea that you must have as a life coach, or even as a psychologist or psychiatrist in Islam. Because if you are a psychologist and you are a psychiatrist trained in a Western school which doesn't believe in God, then too bad. I mean, you will not be able to access this higher knowledge. This higher knowledge always goes back to the realm of the spiritual, always finally goes back to the divine, that is God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we can understand that, we know that just like you are traveling on this earth and you are traveling in a car, you have a car has 4 wheels, alright? So if you go back to your car, alright, you have 4 wheels. Say, assuming these are the 4 wheels of a car. If you just live on the physical plane and everything is, you live and die as a secular materialist atheistic person, you are only driving with 1 wheel. Can you drive the car steadily with 1 wheel? It's impossible. You will crash. That's where you crash in terms of psychological problems. That the epidemic of this 21st century is because of this, the displacement of our psyche. We are no more traveling like the traditional communities of the world, even before Islam, the communities that have other religious value system, long time ago, we have the inner quest of understanding the nature of consciousness and the nature of the spiritual world, which is all in traditional society we have that. So in Islam, we have 4 wheels. So if you are traveling on one wheel, just on the physical aspect, you will just crash. But if you travel on our akal, our heart, and our roh, together, putting together, then we have the 4 steady wheels of understanding, of bringing ourselves and overcoming all the psychological challenges of anxiety, depression, and all the challenges of the 21st century. Then we have meaning and purpose. Alright, then we have understanding of the spirituality of our existence, and that become the basis of our coaching and counseling. And when we can integrate this, I'm just giving you some basic ideas. I remember I'm not giving you the full detail because again, this need a lot of studies, research. So that's why I'm doing this video. Inshallah, many of you who are already expert in terms of Islamic theology or in terms of psychiatry or psychology or neural sciences, and just studying, a lot of our Muslims are at that level, quantum physics and so on. They can integrate all these ideas, because at this level then, we are integrating quantum mechanics, bringing quantum mechanics to understand the realm of the consciousness, to understand the realm of the universal consciousness, to understand the realm of the spiritual worlds, and to understand the realm of the absolute, that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the case of the Creator, He manifested everything. We do not know His essential nature in terms of His zat, by His essence, but we know Him through the 90 names, which has expressed, telling us in the Al-Quran Al-Karim that He is. Who is He? He says, Allahu Ghafurul Wadud. I am the most forgiving, most loving. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, most merciful, most compassionate. So He created us out of mercy and compassion. He created us out of forgiveness and love. He created us to give gratitude, to have all the wonderful qualities of existence, of a balanced human being. That means if we have 4 aspects of our life in terms of our physical, jasad, even our jasad, as I told you, this physical body is actually finally waves of energy, if we understand quantum mechanics. So actually it's moving downward in this direction. So all of our existence are what Allah has ordained upon, is His creation, because when He will our existence and the extended universe, all He needs is to signal innama amruhu iza arada an shay'an an yaqulu lahu kun fayakun. He just said be, and it is. So for Him, the absolute creator, He has all the absolute power, absolute capacity, but His nature in terms of His attribute is love. That's why Al-Imam Ghazali says the first basis of this deen is love. Unfortunately, the deen of Islam today is not based on this deen of love of Allah and the love of yourself, your family, and love of humanity, but it's based on just rhetoric, based on some sort of theological concepts that is not actually Islam. They may say they are praying and so on, but then they go around bombing people out of existence. This is not Islam. So we have to bring back this beautiful deen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained upon us to become His sincere servant as His Khalifa on this earth, knowing that all that I'm explaining, all this that we know in terms of the physical world, the subatomic particle world, the realm of consciousness, the realm of the heart, the realm of the spiritual world, and the realm of the absolute, all manifested from the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you understand the tenets of Islam and the metaphysics of Islam, you will see this whole thing such beautifully structured by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you will create your iman, your Islam and ihsan, and inshallah will bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make you a better life coach, a better counselor, to help our brothers and sisters who are in need, who are now lost, having a purposeless, meaningless life of addiction and frustration. So bring them to joy and happiness, bring them to the love of Allah, bring them to understand their fullness and the full flowering of their full personality as the sincere servant, as His Khalifa on this earth, always striving to make ourselves good, helping others to be good, and making the world good, inshallah.